show, everyone. We are almost at the halfway point of our program, which is usually where we have our first discussion of the day, but we have some facts that we want to share with you prior to that, as according to NASA, the planet's average surface temperature has risen about 1 degree Celsius since the late 19th century. This is a change that is driven largely by increased carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere, along with other human activities. So why do you think there's such, I guess, a stubbornness or this difficulty for people in general to accept that this is actually happening for real?
Well, I think it goes back to our nature, right? We don't like changes.
That's true.
Yeah, we don't like having to adapt, but we do have to adapt.
Indeed, and it's like what they say, when water gets warm a bit at a time, you notice it less than if it gets hot right away.
It's like the frog in the boiling water.
Exactly.
Yes,
Indeed.
exactly.
And recently, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres gave his opinion about climate change. On Monday, Guterres called for scientists to serve up cold, hard facts to push governments into making policies that would curb climate change before a key global warming threshold is passed.
Yes, his comments came as experts and officials from around the world gathered for a week-long meeting in Interlaken, Switzerland, to finalize the last of 7 reports issued by the global body's panel of top scientists since the Paris Climate Accord was forged in 2015.
And in a video addressed to delegates, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the latest report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change came at the tip of a tipping point.
Our world is at the crossroads, and our planet is in the crosshairs. We are nearing the point of no return, of overshooting the internationally agreed limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming. We are at the tip of a tipping point. But it is not too late, as you have shown. Your report last year clearly demonstrated it is possible to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius with rapid and deep emissions reductions across all sectors of the global economy. And your recent reports have also underscored the need to act now.
And joining us today to share her insights on carbon management and what can be done or what can we do to sustain our environment is Fair Atmos founder and CEO Natalia Rialucky. Good morning, Natalia.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Marisa.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we heard what the statement earlier together, and he says we are at the tipping point. For some reason, I know that each person will react differently. For some reason, when I hear that, I feel that it's very pessimistic, and maybe for some people hearing that, they might be thinking, okay, as we're at the tip of the tipping point anyway, why not just go all the way? We don't why bother? Exactly right. What's your reaction, and how should we present this so that we are moving more people to actually really do take this climate change issue or climate emergency seriously and actually start making changes?
Yeah. So I think we need to realize that we are here where we are today because we have created an economy that really values or reward faster things, better and more bigger volume at an instant time, right?
Yes.
What we don't realize that it comes at a cost that we're emitting the gas that traps us in this hotter climate today, right? I think that people are starting to feel it. So it's more and more an undeniable fact that you start to feel the heat.
Yes.
Harvests start to, failing, crops start to failing because of the changes in the climate. I do think like being more realized to this fact, ask us, this is actually the biggest challenge of our time. How do we change the way we live? How do we change the way our economy is today to balance between growth and the planet's survivability?
Even when we talk about growth, do you think exponential growth is actually necessary?
Yeah. So I do think the way we create growth needs to be sustainable.
Yes, it needs to change from the current one.
It needs to change from the current one. The question about how big the growth can be is actually our choice because we are the human that creates that, right?
Yes.
But then every time we balance our growth with our preserving the environment and actually making sure that the planet that we live in today is still habitable in the next centuries, right? I think that is the shift that we need to start doing from now.
So what is carbon management?
Yeah, so the economy today emits, right? Carbon and greenhouse gases that traps us and create the planet becomes hotter. Now the question is, how do we reduce, how do we capture, and how do we remove this carbon from the air so then we can go back and restore the balance, right? So these are what carbon markets and carbon management is all about. How do you restore the balance? There are companies who emits, they would need to offset. What offset means, they want to balance on how much they are emitting to how much they're capturing.
Yes.
So we need to work with communities and even other companies as well to capture those by preserving and planting more trees, for example, but forestry is only one area.
Correct.
It could also come from managing the waste, also changing agricultural practices from releasing a lot of methane to reducing renewable energy. So carbon management is about how do you make sure the balance of what you emit is even more captured, and so it becomes like negative. So the entire market system actually rewards this kind of exchanges, so then we are actually rewarding people to conserve more. So this is the kind of economy that we want to start introducing. No longer about rewarding just value dollar per dollar, but how much carbon, how much greenhouse gases you are reducing. That should be the new economy.
Okay, so basically you're connecting carbon project developers and carbon offset buyers. Could you give us an example of what type of company would be on each side of this?
Yeah, so Indonesia, for instance, is the home for more than 125 million hectares of tropical forest cover. Cooperatives or communities who lives in hutan sosial, for example, and manages them, actually can choose to preserve and conserve the forest and avoid it from logging, avoid it from deforestation, so then we don't emit more carbon, so then we actually preserve. So we meet them in a lot of associations, we meet them in a lot of events that we go as well to different cities in Indonesia to say hi and hey, you actually can actually unlock an economical value if you choose to keep on preserving, or if you convert from logging to conserving. On the other end, there are companies who have what we call as a goal, like a net zero commitment. They can be driven by their own customers, because as you see, more and more generation now is actually demanding their products to be more sustainable. But it could also be the commitment of the leadership of the company that they have already emitted as a way of their way of producing. So then they need to be able to balance that. So these kind of companies could be consumer companies, energy companies. Even though they have reduced all of the emission, they need to emit. So this is the kind of companies that we meet and match make with the projects that reduce and restore the balance of Earth again.
Talk a little bit about what you guys were discussing before we came on air, which is, you know, there are many companies out there, and I'm not just talking about Indonesia, just around the world. And I'm talking major brands, and when it comes to the fashion industry or food and beverage, where they claim to be environmentally friendly, but if you look at, you know, fine detail of it, they're actually, it's more of a PR campaign. It's more to have that image that, so people aren't so focused on the emissions that they're emitting. How do you hold companies accountable so that they do what they say they're doing, and is there a way to track this?
So this is the intention and the mission of Fair Atmos. On the company side, we want to make sure that there is no greenwashing, which is exactly what you're mentioning, right? The way we try to do that is by using technology, our remote sensing technology, basically being able to capture and calculate how much emission can a plot of land, a forest area, actually capture.
Seriously?
We follow international and national standards as well to count. For this type of tree, for example, mangrove, at a certain height, right? What is the emission factor that it could absorb? When we track it via satellite, we basically say that this mangrove is this height, this mangrove is that height. It's still there. So the amount of carbon that they're sequestering, for example, is 1 ton. Without the satellite images, basically you can claim, right? But now with what technology brings is transparency and inclusivity. People can watch, people can see that the project is still ongoing, there is still some impact. So that is how we solve the pain points of the companies who wants to offset with creating good integrity and quality projects.
Right.
Meanwhile, on the project developer side, these communities and these companies as well who wants to create carbon reduction project, basically sometimes they don't know where to start. And in order to get economically rewarded, typically they need to spend 2 years creating 200 pages of document to prove the math why the project is there. Our technology, Atmos Check, is basically free for everyone. They can go to our platform and basically upload or just create a shapefile, just like create a polygon.
Right.
Just make sure your area, you can tell me where it is, and then our technology can basically calculate it for you.
Right.
So then you know that I've been logging for a while.
Yes.
Now I know the potential of economic value out of preserving because of the carbon stock I have been helped to measure and the economic value I know. Then I stop.
Right.
So that's the kind of, easiness and simplified transition we want from people from a high carbon to a low carbon economy.
So could you please map it out for us? Who are the stakeholders and how does it work again? Because of course there are companies, right? There are the emitters, and then there are the communities who can, help absorb the emission. And then there's government as well.
That's correct.
And then how does it work? How does it work? I mean, what's the workflow here?
So, for example, community has a potential project. For example, mangrove planting project that we have in Central Java.
For example, that's Paul.
Okay.
And then I'm a company.
Paul basically goes to our platform and figure out, this mangrove project can reduce 1,000 carbon tons every year. What happened is I help Paul to meet another stakeholder, which is either the government or the international standards body, to basically certify. So this is where the integrity comes in. Because I need to be certified, Paul needs to be certified to say that your project actually reduces carbon. Now, in the platform comes Marisa.
The company.
Yes.
That emits a lot. And I need to...
ironic, by the way.
I know, I don't. I'm such a minimalist. Anyway, but I'm the company, for example.
So then you go to our platform and then you basically see, there's Paul's project there. There's Ria's project there. And then you click on Paul's project and see, what Paul is doing. He's planting more than 10 million mangroves in 2,000 hectares of an area. You see the certification from the government, the certification from the standards body, and then you say, Paul, I want you to keep on doing that. I want to offset through your projects. Here is the economic value that I'm willing to support.
So I'm actually paying a certain amount of money.
That's correct.
For that.
That's correct.
That's what we sometimes refer to as carbon tax.
That's correct. It's more carbon credit. This mechanism is called carbon credit.
I mean, can you give us an example where there is a country in the world right now who's doing that very well?
So
I bet it's the Scandinavian country.
Definitely.
That's what happened.
Exactly.
Most countries in Europe, in the US, actually our neighbors in Asia, starting quite vibrantly in Korea and other places in Asia as well. They started to already set up carbon credit exchange. So they already make it as the same as how we do stock markets these days, right? Basically rewarding, and basically I believe that carbon market or exchanges or market in general is a form of trust and it's a form of how you actually want to run the economy, right? So many other countries are already out there. What we're very confident in is Indonesia is already starting to create a lot of regulations and guidance in this space. I think hopefully we are going to be there very soon. So we're excited about it.
And this would also help protect our forests, actually.
That's correct.
In a way.
It's no longer a feel-good thing, but it's actually the way you get rewarded. That's an economic incentive.
So that's the direct incentive or what benefits, I suppose. But what other co-benefits
that's a
both
great
sides get?
That's a great question. So typical carbon projects, especially the ones in emerging countries, is not only about preserving the earth and reducing carbon, but it's also about improving the livelihood of the people who live in that area. If you remember again, we don't want to have dualism between growth and planet, right? But actually the people who we ask to stop logging or stop taking forest produce, right, can still be benefited from this activity, right? So how do we improve children and mothers in that villages, in that communities, to still get good access to welfare services, right?
Yeah.
But also, the second point is actually biodiversity. So think about all the, what we call like the almost extinct flora and faunas.
Yes.
By preserving these forests, it's actually preserving home for them as well. And now this co-benefits is actually being also rewarded. If we preserve them, we actually give more than just climate impact, but also social and biodiversity impact.
So, okay, I'm taking it further. So Paul now gets money from me, right, as the company. And I'm just thinking, what is the effect of that money being in that community? I mean, do you have any concrete example that you've already seen in Indonesia or everywhere in the world?
Yeah, definitely. Indonesia is home of one of the three actually quite largest carbon conservation, carbon reduction projects globally.
Right.
So what they do is after receiving the carbon credits payments, right, the rewards from the companies, they use
It's in a form of money, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So you pay for the credits, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is this money is being used, one, is to set the right forest patrol. So you put on the fire towers, you put on all the technology to monitor and making sure that there is no still encroachment, right?
Right.
It's being protected. So
Yeah.
that's one example. Other example in these projects is basically they create schools. So they also invest in educating that, you know, you don't have to go way to Jakarta, to the city, right?
Yeah, to get good school, good
go to
education.
school and find work, right?
Yeah.
This is actually work that is fulfilling, that is preserving the nature, but also get economic reward as well. So it's no longer just, you know, a feel-good thing. And opening like mosque, creating water sanitation, these basic infrastructure to make sure they live hand in hand with the nature is what typically the fund is being used for.
Okay.
Is that regulated in any way? I mean, as to what the funds should be used for? Is there any sort of guidance?
Just to make sure that there's no
Yeah,
embezzlement,
that's what
right?
I mean.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's like one person is profiting, there's corruption there, and then the people living in that
They're the ones that
community, yeah, exactly, which we don't want, of course.
No, that's correct. So this is where also our technology, the Atmos Watch, is in place for.
Okay.
So we need to basically monitor the use of funds. And what happened is, in order for you to keep on producing the carbon credit to get rewarded, you need to submit this monitoring and verification report every year to the standardization body. So it's highly regulated, it's true. I think the market and the standards has gone so far from where we started early in 2000s to today. There are definitely a lot more new technology to make sure that monitoring and integrity still happens, and that's where also for Atmos would like to play a role.
This is
About technology.
I know,
Makes
right?
everything, holds everyone accountable, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
transparency, right?
I mean, when we know how to use it well,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Because technology is like a double-edged sword, really. So this is an application, right?
Yeah.
Fair Atmos is an application.
It's a web-based.
It's a web-based.
Yes.
Okay. But the users are basically companies, the stakeholders are just companies, and those who are absorbing the emissions, and government can also use it,
Yes,
but
anyone.
not the public. I mean, like not individual public. I mean, how can
Yeah.
we contribute, or can we?
Definitely. So
can.
individual definitely can be involved.
Oh.
So one is basically trying to understand, you know, what are the different things you could do at home, right? From doing that. And then
Checking it out.
if you go to www.foratmos.com, it's definitely where you can see what are the different activities that sequester carbon. But also, if you would like to support a project, is where you can also, you know,
Well, we
get
can
in
do
touch
that
with
on an
Al.
individual basis
That's
as well.
correct. Yes.
We
Yeah.
can. Look, I am a community or asset owner.
Yeah.
I am a business or buyer.
Yes, you can definitely be a personal buyer as well for carbon credit.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
For reals?
Yeah, it's exciting, and
Because let's face it, I mean, at
Yeah.
home, as much as we try, we're always leaving a little bit of a carbon footprint as well.
Absolutely.
It might make you feel a little
Yeah.
bit better, for
Yeah.
at least for you
Yeah.
and your household, to be able to
Absolutely.
get those carbon credits.
Wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, there's a language selection as well. Oh, great.
Okay.
You can try to understand it in Indonesian and also in
Yes,
English.
that's definitely the first learning that we have here in Indonesia.
Yeah.
the language of carbon is very technical and it's very difficult. So having it in Bahasa, making it close and making it easy for everyone is something that we really want to deliver with our.
I want to take it further. So if I'm an individual, right, and I want to be part of this project, so what does that look like?
Well, the easiest one is basically you can visit our website and basically support the project. Purchase the carbon credit and offset your emission through the project of your choices. So we also have helped you to understand what is the impact and the co-benefits of each project. So for example, you are more drawn towards forest protection projects, but for example, Paul would like to look at more renewable energy projects. You would like to look at more waste management or plastic management projects, right? Then you can find, the projects of your choosing and basically support them through purchasing the carbon credit.
How do we measure our carbon emissions? Like individual carbon emissions?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So there are a lot of protocols out there that basically can, give you the math. Right? But what happened is, for Atmos, we help basically companies and individuals as well to calculate your carbon emission. But then it could be something, the way we do it is we want to make it very easy for you. Like, I give you one example. If you click on our B20, banner, so you can see how we have calculated. If you go to Bali, your flights, we already find, for example, from Jakarta to Bali, how much emission. So you can play around there. You would know this much emission, for example, 1 kilogram of emission, then you can choose to offset. What's interesting there is we put also about your food, about your travel.
Yeah, there's different categories. There's drinks, attractions, shopping.
Exactly. So
and that will add it all up like a little.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's amazing.
So we want to make it close to you. Exactly what you said, Paul. In everything that you do.
So this is it, right? Flight, domestic, Jakarta to Bali. This is how much I have to pay. Wow,
the most expensive one, by the way.
$1,400.
That's $1, by the way. So
it's $1.
That's
There you go.
Oh gosh, I thought it's $1,400.
That's a little more than your flight.
That's what I'm saying.
Definitely not more than your flight.
So it's $1.50 for an example, for a flight. See, it's not that, if we all wanted to offset our footprints, we really could.
Wow.
You start small, you start every day. There are platforms everywhere as well. What we make sure is that these funds goes to the right project with high quality project. And what is important is we follow government regulations as well on which project and how to create the offset. And we're very excited to wait for Indonesia's carbon exchange as well.
Wow.
Great. Have you done any tracking? When did you start for Atmos?
So we started last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
And in that time, are we able to track how much of a difference you guys have made?
Yeah. So we've worked with over 60 communities and companies to create carbon sequestration project, primarily in forest area. So we're working we have assessed and managed around 1 million hectares of land that is previously supposed to be locked, but we try to conserve now because we show, hey, there's still value. It's worth it. Please stop, right?
Wow.
And right now we have worked with over 4,000 communities members as well to deliver this.
So this is the prototype only particularly for the B20 personal carbon footprint, right?
Correct.
Are you developing for a general one?
We're definitely developing for the general one. So we'll definitely keep you posted, Marissa.
Awesome.
When is it going to be launched?
Very, very soon. Don't worry.
Because I want to do this.
Yes. And it's also good to know what kind of impact we're having, because I'm always, my imagination's out there. I think I'm leaving these huge footprints everywhere. It'd be
for
nice
me,
to
definitely transportation. Taxis and stuff. I'm trying to, take MRTs more, especially as the MRT tracks are expanding and everything, instead of using taxis or
and
cars.
it's nice to use this because then you can compare, right?
Yeah, and I don't mind at all, really, just buying, my, what is it called? Offset again?
Yes.
Offset. Yes.
Sleep better at night.
Yeah, you do. You do.
What's important is that we want to integrate this in your life.
Yes.
So it's not just, when
the
you
big guys' problems, right? It's our problem.
It's everyone's problem.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Natalia.
Thank you so much.
This is great.
Yeah,
Check it out.
We're all going to be calculating out here.
Especially you, a numbers guy.
A lot of people in my house. So what's the site?
Fairatmos.com.
Yes, www.fairatmos.com.
So awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And we wish you success. We look forward to the carbon calculator so we can start using it. We individually can start making changes.
Amen.
All right, it is time for another break, but when we come back, we'll bring you update from around the world. Stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Such a great